true wealth comes from the relationships that you have and the spiritual health that's in your life. Because you can have a lot of money and still be broke, in my opinion. But at the same time, you do need money to live, basically. And that's part of the reason why I still try and live frugally even as I scale the business. Because I don't want my head and my heart to get inflated by material things just because I have them. We can use material things and money to help establish God's kingdom on the earth. When you get to a certain point, you have to really consider, okay, am I just going to enjoy selfishly, or am I going to generously allow my community, my family, people in need around me to also benefit from what God has allowed me to do?
Welcome to the Grant Owen Podcast, where we explore the world of entrepreneurship. Join us as we dive into the nitty-gritty of what it takes to start, grow, and scale a successful business. We're on a mission to share our experiences, failures, insights, and advice with others. Whether you're just starting out in your entrepreneurial journey or you're looking to take your business to the next level, tune in and join the conversation about what it takes to succeed in the world of business.
We going full throttle.
Welcome to the Grant Owen Podcast. I appreciate you being here with me. I am so excited, man. First off, before we dive into this episode, all I ask, as I ask every time, is that you share this with one person. If hearing about Cajua, learning about Cajua's story, Cajua's faith, Cajua's values, Cajua's knowledge gives you any value in this world, share it with one other person that would benefit from that. That's all I ask, okay? Because I love comments, I love likes, I like shares, but what's more important to me is that the people that need to hear this, hear it. So if you could do that, it would mean the world to me, and it would make the investment of our time to make this and the investment of our energy so worth it. So thank you for being here. Cajua, dude, thanks for spending time with me.
Yeah, man. Glad we were able to get this on the schedule.
Can I give you an intro for a second? I want to start the podcast this way.
Go for it.
So, Cajua, I'm going to try not to get emotional. Cajua is...
Oh, no, we're already tears.
Yeah, no. I'm going. I think there's two people in my life. There's two people that in my life that I would categorize as probably the best men that I know. One is my dad. My dad's the best man that I know. I appreciate... he's just my best friend, and I appreciate him, and I've never known someone to be a better father. But the second best man that I know, and I say this to people when they ask me about you. I say this to people that don't know you. I say this to people when I'm describing who you are. Cajua is the second best man that I know. And I've been saying that for years. And I want to tell you why. We've grown up together. We've been friends for a long period of time. There's a uniqueness that comes with that level of history and those seasons, but one thing that's been consistent in Cajua is Cajua's that friend that picks you up. Cajua's that friend that identifies when you're down. And there's been probably 2 or 3 points in my life. Like there was one point in particular that was impactful for me. I think I was 20 years old. I was freshly engaged to Erica. I was in between churches. I was serving a lot at one church, and I was attending the church I grew up in. But I was feeling lost in community, and I was feeling just like I was, because I wasn't like fully committed anywhere. My faith was just really struggling, and I was struggling with sin. I was just struggling with a lot of stuff. There was one Sunday that Cajua walked up to me, and you said just genuinely, dude, how's your faith? How are you, like, when was the last time you read the Bible? And I told you, I said, Cajua, I don't think I haven't picked up a Bible in 3 months. And you looked at me and you said, I'm coming over on Wednesday night. And then you came over on Wednesday night. We started the book of Daniel, and then you came over every Wednesday night and slept over at my house, for 4 months straight. Yeah. And we did a Bible study, and then it turned into a discipleship group that we added other people to. It turned into a Bible study that we added a bunch of other people to. But there's the friend that just does that. There's the friend that says, okay, I see where you're at. We haven't connected in a while, but I'm coming over right now, and I'm going to commit to being with you. I think in reality, if I really look at it, I probably wouldn't have gotten married that year. Like Eric and I probably wouldn't have gotten married and had our relationship survive if you hadn't given me that friendship and commitment to like helping me get to that next level and get out of that spiritual slump and help me become the man I need to get to be a man worthy of her. And here's why it's unique is that I'm not the only person you've done that with. I've watched you since doing that with me and feeling the impact of how you've done that with me. I've watched you do that with, I think, 3 or 4 other people in that time. Sometimes it's having people stay with you. Sometimes it's having people, it's giving people jobs. Sometimes it's been a load of different things, but you've been that person to identify when they're in that slump, and you're the person that gets them out of it. And I just want to say thank you, because those are things that go unnoticed, and I would prefer to start this podcast by publicly stating what that's like, because it's more than just, like there's an element of Christianity that's a calling, right? But I think that's, if we talk about, like how, I think is in James, it says like real religion is caring for the poor, the needy, the widow. I think what's lost is true fellowship and true discipleship. And I think you don't publicize the way you care for people and the way you meet people. I've also just had the privilege of like when we're in different seasons, when we're different, like we were coming back from Miami from a conference, a business conference, and you get a text, you get a phone call, you have a situation you have to take care of, and you just are like, I was tired. We were like at a conference for 3 days, and you were like, no, dude, I have to take care of this, and didn't complain. You were just like, this person needs my help, and you just helped. And I've had unique insight into that, and I just want to encourage you and just thank you for the man that you are, because I know there's a lot of people like you, but I know I see you. And so whenever someone's like, who's Kaj, how's Kaj, in the business world, in the friend world, in the spiritual world, right? It's really easy for me to say, I don't go so far to being like, Kaj is my best friend. I don't want you to own that. Like, that's not a title for me to hand out, because I don't have like, when I say it, I mean, like, I think Kaj is the best friend that I have. Kaj is like the like when it means to be best. It's like not closest. It's not about like closeness. It's about like consistent earning of affection and care. So just thanks for being you, because I know I'm not the only person that feels that way, and I want to be able to take this opportunity just to thank you for it. Thanks for who you are and what you do. Thanks,
bro. That means a lot.
Yeah.
I was not expecting that intro, but it's not something that, and this, my heart. It's because I've received a lot, right? I'm blessed. What I've received from God, what I've received from my family, it compels me to pay that forward. It's not out of a place of, all right, can I get recognition from this or whatever? But I think it's a burden that God has placed on my heart, and sometimes when you just feel moved to action in a certain way, you just have to. And it's also, you get to see the fruit of it. You build really good friendships like you and I have out of those moments. So yeah, thank you.
Yeah. I mean, to be honest, I love you, man. And I think I'll stop it there. I'll stop with the sappy stuff. The reality is, especially when it comes to like ministry stuff, I'm a pastor's kid, and I know that it's like, there's a lot of times you don't get to see the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of times you don't get to see, like, you put in all this effort, like you lead a community group, you lead, like, you care for a lot of people, right? And a lot of times you don't get to see what comes of that.
Right.
And I just, if I can be anything, I just want to be the person that says, there is fruit, in my life at least, and I've seen it in other people's lives. And so I hope that just kind of encourages you to continue, because I think, don't let that take, like, whether it's in ministry, whether it's in business, whether it's in something else. I just appreciate that that's who you are as a man. I want to dive into business for a second, because
let's do it.
You've not only done that, but you mentored me on my brief but passionate Amazon journey.
I would say brief. I would say a full year. A full year plus is more than brief.
Yeah, it was about. I'll give myself 2 years. If I last till February, it's about 2 years.
Yeah, no, you're right. You're right. It's about 2 years. Yep.
And you what you did is I think you hit me up and you were like, I interacted with you and you were like,
it was the
ski trip.
drive up. Yeah.
yeah.
Up to Jack
Where you were
Frost.
saying like I made what I think you said like I made like $1,000 on like Arnold Palmer's or something.
Yes. That was one of our first quote unquote big flips. We bought,
And I was like,
me and
what
Josh
are you
were actually
doing?
just talking about this the other day. We bought like 100 or more of some Arnold Palmers from Ollie's, sent them into Amazon on a pallet, which was a disaster to figure out our first time doing it. But yeah, we made profit. We didn't make
That's
a lot
crazy.
on our hourly time because we had no clue what we were doing. It should have taken a couple hours. It took like 3 or 4 days. So we probably made like 50 cents an hour, but it was worth it.
On that, so you went from I know like you were almost bragging to me. You were like, dude, I think we're doing like 10,000 a month, 20,000 a month, and now you're doing over $100,000 a month.
Yep.
And it's been a year and a half. Tell me about that process because I know essentially you took a jump like May or April of 2022, and then it went up to like 50K. Then you just like so tell me about the past couple of years. Tell me about the growth of running an online e-commerce wholesale business.
Yes. So myself and my business partner, another good friend from growing up, Josh, we started selling on Amazon in 2017. We originally started with private label, which is where you brand your own product, get it manufactured in China, make a listing on Amazon, run ads, all that stuff. We had one product that did not do so great, one product that did do well, and then we kind of had a pivot after COVID lockdown because the global supply chain was a disaster. So then we started doing arbitrage, which is essentially flipping stuff. So we started out with online arbitrage, looking at different retail websites for brand name products that we can buy low, sell high, make the margin. And then this year we started adding in wholesale. So same idea, flipping brand name stuff, but purchasing it from distributors so you can get more quantity in products that you might not have access to online. So 2017, we were still in college, kind of doing it on the side for a few years. 2021, I quit my full-time job, end of 2021. And I was doing like some essentially contractor work on the side just to support my own personal cash flow. And then since June of 2022, I've been 100% full-time on the business. So June of 2022 is when I really took the jump, when we really started scaling up. And at some point in the back half of 2022, we probably started hitting 50K revenue months. And then middle of this year is when we started hitting 100K revenue months.
What are you going to do this month in December? We're recording this in December. I'm not sure. It's probably going to come out in January, but in December, how much are you going to do?
November, we did 140. December, I'm pushing for 200. Yeah. And
Crazy,
we're trying to build to a point where like 200K plus is our new normal. That's the goal.
Do you know what I'm saying? Like, here's what's crazy is that you were talking about how, I mean, we were like when we started this, 20K sounded crazy. Dude,
It did.
20,000 a month.
It did.
It's like that's crazy.
Yeah.
And now you're like 2 years later, 10x.
10x.
No
10x,
business like there's no business that 10x's in 2 years.
Yeah. It's crazy.
None.
It's very scalable, but at the same time, when you're scaling that aggressively, it can be scary because you're just spending a lot of money on inventory. So
What's the difference between a $20,000 business and a $200,000 business?
systems and access to good inventory. That's really it.
Okay.
Yeah.
How much of it comes down to like buying power? Like you have to have so much access to credit.
Yeah.
in
So
order
if you
to
want to
purchase
scale
that much.
quickly, you can leverage credit cards, you can leverage loans. Then the other side of it is as you continue to flip products, you reinvest a lot of those profits back into the business and buying more inventory. So that if you get a couple good products, the snowball effect can happen very quickly, which is what happened for us. And then we do leverage credit as well. But most of our profits from any product just end up going back into buying more inventory. And now we're kind of getting to that point where we're like, okay, we're hitting a good revenue mark and we might be able to slow down the pace of our growth to kind of stabilize cash flow, build up some capital reserves, maybe increase some salaries, that kind of stuff.
Yeah. What's how much are you taking home per month? Can I ask? Like,
No-
there's the amounts you're allowed to take home,
Yeah.
and then there's like you're saying like you're like I'm reinvesting. I'm in reinvestment mode.
Yes. Yeah, not a lot. My personal salary this year is going to be high 30s, low 40s, somewhere in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
Oh, so you're
very
really slim. You're really
Oh,
slim.
yeah. Yeah. But I have almost no living expenses. So
Yeah.
what
do you want to do? Where do you want, like, how much do you want to take home when you've established this where you want it to be?
next year I want to between 2x and 3x my personal salary.
If you're not making 120 next year, I'm gonna be mad. I'm gonna be mad.
Me and Josh just had our 2024 planning meeting, and it should happen. If it doesn't happen,
Okay.
we did something wrong.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah, because 200K, 200K a month? That's almost 3 mil, right?
That
3
would
million
be
annual?
2.4.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So then, yeah, even if you, yeah, that'd be fitting. Are you like, do you have an exit plan? Do you want to be doing this? Do you want to keep scaling this? Do you want to do you like Amazon?
I do. I enjoy e-commerce, and we're getting on Walmart too, which is part of how we're going to be diversifying. Because obviously, as you know, the biggest risk for an Amazon business, which you can't really have an Amazon business, you're an e-commerce business selling on Amazon. But if you're selling on Amazon primarily, your biggest risk is platform risk. The way I like to describe it is we're playing in Uncle Bezos's playground. He sets the rules,
Yeah.
and he can kick us
Uncle
off.
Bezos.
And if he does, it will be with no remorse.
Yeah. Yeah.
So part of
It
our
is.
other goal for 2024 is de-risking a little bit and
Yeah.
being in a position where if for some reason something happens and we get suspended for a period of time, God forbid, it wouldn't totally destroy us.
Yeah.
And that
Are
wasn't
you,
the answer to the question you just asked, but I forget what it was.
It's fine. That's fine. No, it was more so like, what's your exit strategy? Because you're saying like that's how you're going to scale.
Yes.
Are you like wanting to do this for the next 5 to 10 years? Is it 2 to 3 years? What's your ideal?
Yeah, so the way to build enterprise value in an e-commerce business is to have ownership of a brand, which would be going back to the private label thing, developing your own product, or what our direction is for next year and for the foreseeable future is wholesale brand direct exclusive contracts. So still selling someone else's product, but instead of being one of 10, 20, 30 people selling that brand on Amazon and Walmart, we would be the only person selling that company's product and have an exclusive written agreement that would then be transferable. So we could get to a point where, and there's a few people I've talked to who have done this, where that's their entire business model. They only partner with certain brands, and that's how they're building their e-commerce business to 9 figures. And because of those contracts, then you actually have enterprise value because you essentially have control over the entire distribution channel. And then aggregators would love to see that kind of thing. So for the next, I would say 3 to 5 years, my goal is to build that part of the business, also adding in the consulting piece. And then as we build that way, we would at least have the option to do an exit if we want to. You can't really exit online arbitrage business at a good multiple. It's just, you can't.
Yeah. Well, that's kind of been my thought is like, I was talking to I was shooting with Warner and Miles yesterday, which is really funny because when you were like, I went through the education of Cajua Robinson when it comes to e-commerce. He sent me the Buy Box Bandits podcast, and then he created me a playlist. And within that playlist, it was Warner Fields of Profit, Miles.
Yeah.
I think it was probably Fast Track FBA or something like that.
Yeah,
but
I think Fast Track was in there,
really,
maybe Amazon Lit.
But what's really funny about it is because I pretty much you sent it to me. I think I just mostly consumed Warner's sourcing vids.
Yes.
And the full circle is he was one of my he's one of my main clients.
That is really full circle.
I'm making those videos for him, so it's really funny. I was talking to him yesterday while we're shooting content, and it was what's the in a world of saturation and in a world where you're thinking exit because you're thinking business. Most people approach Amazon in particular. I don't know about drop shipping or any of the other e-commerce the scam / not scam / automation stuff, all this stuff that's not real. But when it comes to real business stuff, a a lot of people approach Amazon as like a flipping business, which it totally can be. Even OA
Yes.
is like, you don't have to, it can be a side hustle and you can
Yep.
make $2,000 to $3,000 a month and it can be awesome, right? That's incredible. It's I would argue it's actually really easy to make $2,000 to $3,000 profit per month
Yeah, as a
flipping
side
products
hustle.
on Amazon.
Yep.
Yeah.
Totally.
Not many people talk about it as a business. With that in mind, what's the differentiation between OA, wholesale, and PL? And how would someone know if they're good for one of those?
Right. So OA, online arbitrage, and then wholesale, there's two sides of it. There's wholesale arbitrage, and then there's wholesale brand direct. And then private label is building your own brand. Each one is going to have different pluses and minuses that come with it. Online arbitrage, I would say, is the best way to get started, besides maybe retail arbitrage, which is the same idea, but just going to brick and mortar stores. Because with retail arbitrage, you can physically see the product. It's a little bit more tangible when you're first starting out versus online arbitrage. Obviously, you're just looking at a screen. But those are great ways to get higher margin products, to flip a few things, to make that extra $1,000 a month, $2,000 a month, $3,000. Wholesale is, in my opinion, when you really want to start scaling and build something a little bit more stable. Because with online arbitrage and retail arbitrage, products are going to have a much shorter life cycle, which means a product might only be profitable to flip for a week, a couple weeks, a month, even just a day. We do have a few online arbitrage products that are consistently good, but that's rare. Wholesale products will have a much longer life cycle. They'll be, 3 months, 6 months, a year, even evergreen. But then the barrier to entry might be a little higher because you have to build relationships with distributors to get good pricing. You have to do a lot of cold calling. Whereas with online arbitrage, any website will, let you buy until you get banned. And then with private label, you're building the brand, you're going to have higher margins, but your research process has to be really, really in depth. You got to know the market. You got to know the kind of product that you want. You need to find a supplier in China, and then the turnaround on your cash flow is just way longer. Retail arbitrage, you can go to the store, buy something, list it, sell it the same day, get paid out 2 weeks later. Private label, you have to first design the product, then find a manufacturer, then they have to make it, then they have to ship it from China to here if you're getting it manufactured in China. Your cash flow cycle might be 6 months, 9 months. So, but then you have brand equity. So pluses and minuses on each side.
I would also say, like, if you're someone who's really good at operations, you're really good at systems, I would say OA is realistic. The downside of OA is that you always have to find new items. But if you have good systems, then finding new items is really easy. The downside, the type of person that should do wholesale is someone who's good at sales. Someone who's likes picking up the phone and dialing, because you have to cold call. You have to do emails, you have to have systems for that. But that's awesome. The downside of that is if you find bad suppliers, it makes it a little bit a little bit negative, and then the margins are tougher because you're doing the larger quantities.
Yeah, at the start, and it's going to depend on the product, depend on the supplier. But yeah, the main thing with OA is transactional. Wholesale is relationship based. So if you're good, like you said, you can do sales. You're good at building relationships, communicating with suppliers. You'll succeed in wholesale.
I think anyone that's good at marketing should do PL, because private label is like with the benefit of wholesale and the benefit of OA is that you have to do very little. Like OA, you have to do zero marketing.
Yep.
And then wholesale, you have to do very little marketing, if any, right? You have to do very little in paid ads. So, but with PL, you have to do a ton. The downside of PL is that if your product is inferior, if it's not very good, it's very easy to duplicate.
Yeah.
Almost always like a Chinese supplier is going to beat you.
Yeah. In my opinion, the more important side of private label is going to be the product development and product research. If you really are trying to build a brand around that private label product and have it be a multi-product brand and go multi-channel, so Walmart, Shopify, even get it in brick and mortar stores, then that's where the marketing piece comes in. But on Amazon, it's more about, is the product good? Is it better than the competition? And then learning how to run PPC advertising.
Yep. Love it. Okay.
Yeah.
I'm gonna pivot hard.
Let's do
I'm
it.
gonna pivot really, really hard here. First off, dude, you built something that's gonna be 2.7. Like, you're not even just $1 million seller. You don't even have just a 7-figure business. You're gonna have a multi-7-figure business
Multi-7.
next
That's
year.
the goal for next year. We hit
Dude, that's-
we hit the 6-figure seller mark. I remember when we hit 6 figures for trailing 12 months, and that was close to the most excited I've been in the business. It was 6 figures for the last 12 months, and then realizing
Dude,
that 6 figures in sales is not that much. Once you take out your cost of goods sold, there's not much left.
Yeah.
But yeah, multi-7.
But either
sounds
way,
good.
that's I mean, sure, you're just a 20 something year old, 27, 28-year-old guy. 7-figure biz. No big
The
deal.
opportunity's
No one-
there, man. The opportunity's there.
Who cares about it?
Stick with it long enough.
If you
put
can
in the
do
work,
it-
you'll get there.
If you can do it. The next thing I want to talk about is there's a lot of stuff you do. I was talking about the impact that you have as a spiritual leader, just as a friend, but also just as a as a man. I asked you about this on your podcast about a year ago.
Yeah.
But do you want to be a pastor?
Yes.
Is that like a soon time thing? Is it a long term time thing? Is
The,
it like
the
what do you
latter. I think in college, I thought it was going to be a soon time thing. And from what I've learned and just the position I'm in life now, I think it's a long term thing. And when I say
You wanna
long
make money
term,
first.
I don't think it's going to happen within the next 5 years.
think? Okay.
Yeah.
What does it look like for someone to have a successful business, like, and be a pastor? Because you're going to be towing that line with that dynamic of like, if things go right, which if I had to make bets, I'm going to Cajua someone I'm betting on. If things go right, like, you're going to be in a position where you're going to be wealthy, and then also doing ministry. How do you toe the line between like being wealtly? You're like, it's not something
I don't
you
know
have
why.
yet, right?
I don't know why
Yeah, I
you're
know,
asking me. I haven't got there.
I know, but like, but I'm reading. We're working on the math. I see the plan. I've been privy to the evidence of it and what's growing. And I know you're living frugally. You're just a frugal guy. Again, partially spiritually led, partially you're just very operationally minded. You're very practical.
Yep.
But if all goes well, you'll be someone who's rich, and you'll be entering like this thing where you're going to try to become a spiritual leader. What is that dynamic like? I feel like everyone, like, the Bible is so clear to like warn against love of God, love of money, and I feel like they say it's hard for a rich man to get to heaven. If it's hard for a rich man to get to heaven, it must be even harder for a rich man to be able to lead people to heaven.
I disagree with the last statement. I think it sounds good. I think, well, I guess it depends on who the rich person is. I want to start with like a philosophy of wealth. And I think this is something I spend a lot of time thinking about to guard my heart from the love of money. I enjoy money. I enjoy it as a tool. I enjoy it as a resource that gets you other things. But I think true wealth comes from the relationships that you have and the spiritual health that's in your life. Because you can have a lot of money and still be broke, in my opinion. And I'd never, ever want to end up in that situation. But at the same time, you do need money to live, basically. And that's part of the reason why I still try and live frugally even as I scale the business. Because I don't want my head and my heart to get inflated by material things just because I have them. Abraham, going back to the Old Testament, Abraham was stupid wealthy. He had so much wealth in possessions, in people, in power, in influence. And he was called a friend of God. And I think our call as Christians can be, if God desires to give us wealth and the skills and the ability to go and make wealth and contribute in the marketplace, is we can use material things and money to help establish God's kingdom on the earth, particularly through generosity. So it's not about accumulating so that I can live extra safe and extra comfortably. For me, I think God has given me these skill sets, and I just enjoy doing it so much that I would do it just for the fun of it, even if it's not because I'm making bank, Like I legitimately enjoy doing what I'm doing because of the process. And I need to pay the bills as well. But I think when you get to a certain point, you have to really consider, okay, am I just going to enjoy selfishly the labor of my hands, or am I going to generously allow my community, my family, people in need around me to also benefit from what God has allowed me to do?
I like that. I guess I just would ask, like, are there examples in your mind of people that have done that well? Like, I know we can think of examples of people that are generous, people that, that have practiced stewardship really well.
Yeah.
I guess it's different for, like, at least in the social media space.
Yeah.
There's a lot of business owners that are very successful, but a lot of them that claim to be Christian, whether they are or not.
Right.
Is there somebody in your mind that you're like, I like how he does it? I would like
Yeah,
to mimic that a little bit.
that's a really tough question, because the pastors I know are my local pastors, right? And they're all full-time vocational pastors. I don't have personal relationship with someone who's a pastor who currently owns, even if they don't operate, owns a business. I know they exist. I just haven't had conversations with them. And it's really hard to kind of determine through social media. And a lot of pastors who are also wealthy have made their money in ministry, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. In some situations, it can be wrong, but not necessarily. I'm not calling anybody out. So it's challenging. I don't know how to answer that question. I don't see why it can't be done. I don't.
Have you connected with John Onwuchekwa?
No, I have not. But I follow him because of you.
Dude, you got send him get a call booked with him. He's no longer a pastor,
Right.
But I think he has part ownership in like 6 businesses, and he still does ministry to some extent.
Yeah.
And,
he seems really dope.
He's awesome.
Yeah.
I wouldn't categorize him as someone like who's like in ministry, but like I do like how he's approached things.
Yeah. I think you can get to a point where like I could see myself, if whatever point in life it is, if I'm in full-time vocational ministry, but then if we make some sort of exit, even if I have minority share, at that point it's just like you just have stock in a company and you get whatever sort of disbursements that you can live off of and support your family with.
Yeah. Okay. How much money would it take for you to be a W-2 employee?
I mean, a lot. It would be a lot for me to have to go back to W-2.
Really?
A lot.
How much?
Multiple 7 figures.
A year?
Yes.
Multiple 7 figures.
I enjoy working for myself way too much.
I'm sorry. If someone wants to make me an offer for a single 7 figure a year, I wouldn't mind. I would take that.
Wouldn't take it.
Is it because
I would
freedom?
hesitate. I would hesitate. I would think about it, and then I would say no.
Multiple 7 figures, bro?
Yeah. Multiple 7. It would have to be
a year.
Because I believe in the vehicle that I have now. I believe that I will get there within the near future. So why would I sacrifice the time freedom, the control, working with friends, being able to hop on a call with you and do a podcast for money? Like, again, that goes back to what I'm saying. Like, I think wealth is the relationships and the life that you get to live and the people that you get to do it with. It's not just about the money.
There's a clip. That's a clip right there.
It would have to be like, so if I'm getting paid multiple 7 figures, I could then this is where it gets interesting. So I'll be like, okay,
yeah,
I'll do them both for a month. I'll take 80% of my first month paycheck to hire someone to be me in my business. Step outside of the business. Work for them for a year. Quit, then take all of that capital and reinvest it back into the business.
Now we're playing math. Yeah. Okay. I see how it is.
But it wouldn't be
so
because
if someone wants to hire Kaj for multiple 7 figures, I'll take it if he doesn't want it. But yeah, go ahead. Feel free to reach out. That's really funny. So on that level, I think I'm noticing a lot of entrepreneurs talk about God.
Yeah, I've seen it as well.
And the danger is that I also see, like, I think the heart's there, and the root of like why they're communicating that, and that their faith is real. But on the side of it, I also see, just because of the lifestyle and because of people, they're not in the church. They're talking about their love of God and their need for God and how God drives everything for them. But when it comes to their lifestyle, they still do the same things. They're not having the Spirit flow through them. They're cursing. There's an outflow of sin, but a representation of God, and God is my everything. Talk to me about it. What are your thoughts on that?
I think anyone can say whatever they want on social media. And I would love to just have actual conversations with those people. And it's hard because some people have grown up in the church and then they have church hurt. They've had bad experiences. That can be
I hate that word.
That can be very legitimate.
I hate it.
That drove them away from being in the church. Some people maybe never stepped foot in a church and then are starting to discover a relationship with God, discover who God is, and then that's beginning to enter into their life. So everyone can be at a different point in the process. And then some people might just be claiming it just because it's what people are doing and there's no substance there. But I think if it's serious, then you have to ask yourself the hard questions and be like, is he Lord and Savior? Am I going to submit to him as Lord? Or am I going to treat him as for lack of a better way of saying it, like a smorgasbord, and just pick and choose what elements of God that I want and leave out that which makes me uncomfortable?
Oh, that's really good. That's really good. You have to be able to do it all. I actually want to ask you about it. You mentioned church hurt.
Yeah.
I'm struggling
that's
with
the
it,
word
man.
you don't like?
I don't like it.
Why?
I don't like. First off, I don't believe in victim mentality. I think there's traumatic situations that happen.
Right.
There's people that sin.
Yeah.
There are awful things that have happened to people, and those people also are within the church, because that's just life.
Yep.
Bad things happen to people everywhere.
Yes.
Right?
Correct.
And I imagine it's uniquely hard when it's within the church.
Yes.
I hate victim mentality.
Yeah.
The church hurt me. And even sometimes it's not even just like, it's like this church. Sometimes it's not even like this church. It's like the church.
Yeah.
I hate that.
Yes.
And then when it's within this church, it can also, like, it could be this person.
Yeah.
Like, because people hurt people.
Right.
And there's just
Hurt
like this
people hurt
declaration
people.
of like, I can't, it's like evangelical, all these things.
Yeah.
You see guys like Josh Harris that are, falling away from the faith, and then actually now regaining elements of it, right? And reclaiming and saying, I needed to step away from faith in order to get perspective.
Did you listen to, what was the Mars Hill podcast? Do you listen to that one? I feel like we talked about that.
I did.
It was very well put.
I didn't. I've a lot of people talk to me about it.
Just
but
go
yeah.
listen to the Josh Harris episode. That one was worth a listen. One thing that was interesting is how he said he apparently, after he walked away, he wrote a book about how to deconstruct, and he got lit up because of people who said, "You're the reason I walked away from the faith, and now I don't know the meaning of life." And they were like,
Did he release a book on deconstruction?
it was either a book or a course or a blog or something.
A pamphlet, ebook? Oh, goodness gracious. Well, yeah, because this is what we're talking about. We're talking about all these terms that, first off, if you're not a Christian, if you're not in the evangelical movement, if you're like, you're not going to understand. You're not going to know who Josh Harris is.
And
But,
you don't need to.
but yeah, but like, that's what I struggle with is like these terminologies of I deconstructed, I'm reconstructing. And it's exactly what we were talking about, where it's like you're piecing together the aspects of church that you like, and you're like, fundamentally, people want community.
Right.
And if you feel burned by a community, right, which happens,
Yes.
right, like, I really struggle with it.
Yep.
I'm someone that left Covenant, right? I don't go to the same church I grew up in, but I will never say I hate covenant, or I will never say I'm hurt by covenant, because yes, there's individuals that, when you're in a group of people that sin, they sin. I sin against people, they sin against me. But like, I have a lot of affection for people,
Right.
and it's okay. Mm-hmm. Yes, pastors mishandle things.
Yep.
That's just what I can't stand it. So what? Tell me your thoughts on church hurt, because am I just misguided? Like, I feel like it's just victim mentality.
So when I say church hurt, obviously that's a large term with a lot of baggage that people mean different things by it. I would like to say I mean the person who was invested in a local church community and their pastor abused spiritual authority in a way that was damaging and sinful. I think that would be the best representation of church hurt. I think someone who is like, oh, I don't like this article I read on Christianity Today and how the evangelicals are saying X, Y, and Z, and then labeling that as church hurt. I think that's, you need to dig a little deeper. I'm talking about someone who was in a local church community and something was seriously handled wrongly, or there was an abuse of power, and that because of the position that a pastor has, that a spiritual leader has in representing God to the people, and that person might not have a strong sense of discernment, that it gets muddied. They're like, okay, so if this is what God is like, why am I still following God? I think that would be the kind of church hurt I'm talking about.
But that's also where I struggle, because people aren't God.
Right.
And it's like the church is not, it's a place where a bunch of sinners gather, right? Mm-hmm. It's not a bunch of righteous people gathering.
Yeah.
It's a bunch of people that are pursuing righteousness, right? But like, how can there be an expectation that this is God when, without the expectation of if I'm exposing myself to other people, I'm exposing my flaws, my issues, I'm living life with people, right? Like, it's like any relationship. It's like, if you just spend enough time with someone, to me, it just sounds like the toxic stuff. It's like, I'd get rid of toxic friendships, get rid of toxic,
Yeah, I don't think it's I'm not saying it's the right way to handle something, to just up and leave, right? Relationships are messy and you gotta dig in. We're called to be in community. That's just when I say church hurt, that's the kind of person I'm thinking of.
Okay.
Yeah.
What do you think of for someone that is feeling like they need a semblance of faith and they haven't experienced the church? They haven't experienced the goodness of it. They haven't experienced the fellowship of it. They haven't experienced what I described at the beginning of this episode, right? But they're unsure about God. They're unsure about, they see all the negative. It's almost like Catholics, and you're like, I see all the things about priests and children, and I'm like, I'm just going to throw the baby out with the bathwater and just not partake in any of it because of bad people. Right. What do you say to them? And give me an argument for the church.
I don't know if I've ever tried to give an quote unquote argument for the church or speak to that group of people at large, because it's very difficult, because everyone's story is different. I think whenever I'm thinking about college ministry and friends I have from the gym, whenever I've talked to someone who's in that place, it's normally about going into their story. Where did something go wrong or perceive to go wrong? And then talking about how the character of Jesus, the person of Jesus, the love of Jesus is the answer to that problem. Or showing through stories in the Bible how Jesus's character is not actually like what their hurt experience was. Because sometimes, again, going back to what I said before, someone abuses power and they're like, is God like this? And then talking them through, no, God is not like this. That person did X, Y, and Z, but that is an inaccurate representation of who God is. This is actually who God is like. Let me tell stories of that from my life, from friends' life, from Scripture, and then working through that with people. Because once you get to the heart of God and the true character of God, I think you can work past that stuff. It takes work, but I think that's what it's about.
Talk to me about spiritual discipline. I think you're someone in my mind that has been consistent with it. I think, I think of you and I think of like Henry as guys that are that I think do a good job of walking with the Lord. What does that look like for you? What's been like the daily process of you to be close with God?
Mm-hmm. Reading scripture, worshiping, and praying. It's the same stuff, man. And that's what God has given us to have access and relationship with him. And it's daily bread, daily water, got to be filled. And getting to a place where you actually realize that without him, you really can do nothing of lasting value. And that puts you to a place of humility and a place of prayer and a place of asking God for, okay, I need you. It's not just, I need to do this to check it off a list. I need to do this to feel good about myself, but actually realizing without this, I am empty. And then as you go deeper into relationship with God, it becomes something that you desire and not just something that you're doing for the sake of doing. So yeah.
What does it look like practically on a daily basis? So you're talking about 3 different things. How do you make time for those 3 things?
I normally try and do them first. I don't do great having a ton of time with them every day, especially in this season. I've just been so busy, and that's an excuse because at the end of the day, if I say it's the most important thing, it should be reflected in my calendar. So I'm not perfect with that by any means, but I try and do it first. And then it depends on the day. I normally like to start with playing guitar in worship and then move into reading scripture and then prayer. That's normally what my flow looks like. Sometimes I'll do it at night.
What's someone's first step? So someone hasn't picked up a Bible in years. Someone hasn't, like they know they need something, but that feels like a big step.
Yeah.
What's their first step for entering into even a relationship with God?
Start reading Leviticus.
Thank you for the episode, everybody, and we'll.
No, that's 50% a joke because Leviticus. It takes a lot of work to unpack what's going on in Leviticus. It's very different from our culture. I'm listening through the Bible Project, and they're in Leviticus right now, so it was top of mind.
Okay.
If you have no history at all with the Bible, you've never read it, I would say start in one of the Gospels because that tells the story of Jesus. And again, there's a lot. The Bible is a book written by Jews in Hebrew, or if it's the New Testament, thinking in Hebrew, translating it into Greek or whatever other language. So it's a Jewish book. So there are going to be things that we miss culturally, but there's always a lesson that can be learned from even just a surface level reading of it. So start in the Gospels, Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John, the first 4 books of the New Testament. That would be the best place to start. And do it with someone, whether it's a pastor, whether it's a friend, whoever. But I strongly believe that the Bible is meant to be read and studied in community. It's definitely meant to be read privately and for personal devotion, but throughout Jewish history, throughout modern Christian history, it's a communal thing. And we've been going through the book of Mark, which is one of those Gospels in my community group. And every time it's just great. I mean, we can spend 2 hours talking about 5 to 10 verses, just unpacking it and seeing new things, even though I've read that book many, many times. So read it, start in a gospel, and read it in community with someone.
Love it. Love it. All right, dude. Well, where can people find you? How can people support you?
Yes. So most of my handles are just my name, Cajua Robinson, Cajua Robinson. Currently most active on Twitter, also on Instagram, kind of on LinkedIn. We're working on it. But you can shoot me a follow, shoot me a message. And if you have any questions, whether it's about Amazon, about faith, I'm always down for a conversation.
Love it. And what's one thing that you would like for people to take away from this?
Oh, boy. Yeah, following God is worth it. It's worth it. It'll take sacrifice, but it's worth it.
I love it. I love it. All right, dude. Well, thank you so much. Appreciate you. Appreciate your energy. Appreciate your time. Thank you for listening. We'll see you on the next one, guys. Peace.